Good morning, CLC. Thank you for being here. Thank you for this moment. I invite you now, at this moment and in this time, to allow the great wave that is Spirit itself to just touch you, knowing you are the I am that you need. If you feel so inclined, go ahead and take a nice deep cleansing breath in, breathing in the love and light around you. And as you release the breath, release all that no longer serves you. Allow any doubt or stress or tension to just wash away. Allow any thoughts of the past or future to just melt for the moment. Go ahead and take another nice deep cleansing breath in. And as you release the breath, allow your body to relax in this moment. And allow your mind to be here now. Universal love enfolds me. Universal wisdom inspires me. Universal spirit enlightens me. Universal power encircles me. I am one, and all is well. As we begin this inner healing process, let me invite you to relax in quiet confidence, opening yourself up to the miracle-working higher power. Now symbolize the unity of your thinking and feeling nature by touching your chest with your hand, and let my words act as your own for your own inner healing, acceptance, and receptivity. I acknowledge that there is a power, intelligence, and wisdom greater than my own. I am in the midst of it, and it is in the midst of me, sensitive and receptive to my every thought, word, action, and feeling. I now make this true for myself by saying aloud, I acknowledge. Acknowledging this higher power working through my life, I admit that I am personally responsible for solving my own problems while being guided and assisted by something greater than myself. As I am ready to surrender the conflicts of my ego to the wisdom of this infinite presence, I simply speak these words: I surrender. I surrender. Knowing that forgiveness is the key to unconditional love and the feeling of heaven, I now unconditionally forgive anyone and everyone who has ever injured me in any way, real or imagined. And I now forgive myself for all of my mistaken judgments and their resulting actions. From my deepest level of understanding, I now say, I forgive. Realizing that I continually experience the effects of my own thinking, I now choose to allow this higher power to recreate me deeply, filling my mind with thoughts that are only positive, constructive, loving, and beautiful. I call upon this divine inflow by stating aloud, I choose. I now center upon that one very special idea that I'm willing to accept as real for me in this coming week. Visualizing that idea as already acted upon and brought to pass. In seeing my idea become a fact of my experience, I enjoy the happiness and peace of my thought fulfilled and gratefully speak these words. I accept. Knowing that I have an everlasting place in the midst of the power that sustains all creation, as well as the support of all those around me, I allow myself to relax in the peace of fulfillment and gratitude and say, I release. Now, in my mind's eye, I envision the presence of someone near and dear to me. This could be a friend, a family member, a teacher or mentor, someone who has touched my life in deep and loving ways. Someone who may not be physically present in this room or even on this planet anymore. I turn to that image in my mind's eye and say, I'm grateful for the good in your life. Now I open my eyes, turn to the world around me, and joyfully speak to anyone physically present in this room or virtually on this broadcast, and share in confidence and gratitude in saying, I'm grateful for the good in your lives.
Well, I welcome you here. This is my favorite time of the year, teaching-wise, because it's the basics of this teaching. And that's what I've sort of built my life on, really, are the basics of this teaching. And then through the rest of the year, we extrapolate and we investigate and we go off into different territories, different writers, and different themes. But we come back to the science of mind always. And I told you this last week. I said, I come in here and I have notes and I have a plan. You got to have a plan. I come in, I have a plan, what I'm going to say, And I sit down, and then Lisa says something. And all of a sudden, it's like, I got to go in that direction. Well, today it wasn't Lisa, it was Danielle. Okay? And I wrote this down. I broke protocol of meditation. You should never, in a guided meditation, stop paying attention and start writing something in a notebook. But that's what I did. And I said, she said this in her meditation leading up to the inner healing experience, which was the part where you put your hand on your chest. We'll talk about that some other month. We're going to go through the inner healing experience. But she may not even remember this because you wing it, But she said, you are the I am that you need. You remember that?
I don't.
No, you don't. Okay. I know, it's just stuff yeah, but you had a plan. You had a plan. You always have a plan when you come up here. You have a plan, but then you deviate from the plan. Yeah, right. You are the I am that you need. Okay, that right there, close the book, that's it. You are the I am that you need. The whole science of mind, from top to bottom and side to side, is encapsulated in that statement. You are the I am that you need. But I wouldn't be doing this job justice if I didn't give you about another 30 minutes on that. And 4 more Sundays and off into the future. Here's the thing. There's a teaching on earth that's really powerful that says that the divine is fully present at every point within creation. That teaching is the science of mind. It's not the only teaching that says that, but it's the teaching that said it that got my attention. Because I was not yet familiar with Advaita Hinduism, let's say, which also says that. I was not culturally acclimated to Hinduism. I found out about that much later. lately I've been doing some research into a writer I knew a little bit about named G.R.S. Mead, who wrote a book called Fragments of Faith Forgotten. It's about the Gnostics. He was one of the first to translate the Nag Hammadi material. Find out this guy wrote 40 books. He was one of the founders of the Theosophical Society. He's where I'm going to be spending the next couple of weeks, reading and studying, because I fell down that rabbit hole. And you know what he teaches, and you know what that body of work teaches? The ubiquity of the divine. But it teaches it in a way that wouldn't have caught my attention when I was 20, the way this teaching did. There's so many teachings out there now, and you find that what we have in the science of mind is showing up in what we call mainstream religion. Mainstream psychological practice, spiritual psychology. It's turning up all sorts of places, and we may never get credit for it, and that we're not in it for that. But this teaching, to me, and the reason I teach it, the reason I'm doing this, is because this teaching, to me, sums it all up. It's the big umbrella under which everything else plays itself out. And I was thinking about it. Across the way is our building we call our learning center. On the ground floor, we've got bookstore and classrooms and offices. And upstairs, we have a large meeting space and more classrooms and things. And that was where we originally started meeting when we first moved to this property in 1986. We being Creative Life Spiritual Center. The largest room up there is named for a woman in my family by the name of Anita Catherman. That's how she pronounced it. It was a Danish first name that no one but a Dane can pronounce correctly, so she called it Anita. And we named Catherman Hall after her because she was a practitioner emerita with us. She passed in 2000, but she helped start this place, and she was here tirelessly all the time. And why I'm bringing her up, just to give you a little background on this, is I was 8 or 9 years old when she was coming home from work. I'm a native of New York City. I've been here a long time in Houston, but I'm from New York. And she was coming home from work on the M104 bus, and she had been on a spiritual quest. She'd involved herself in a number of different things that you might think of as the occult, esoteric work. Also went to 2 large Christian churches where she was very involved, and other members of my family were very involved. They went for the music. They went for the social thing. They didn't get a lot out of the teaching, come to find out. And so she put it, you know the expression, she put it out there. She put it out to the universe. She said, I need something that's realistic and doable and logical and healthy. I need a path. I need a teacher. I need a mentor. I need something. And she's coming home from work on the bus. And she looked up at what they call car cards, which are where you've seen pictures of people strap hanging on buses and subways, you know. Well, they're ads, stuff. She looked up, and one day, out of the blue, there's this ad. And it says what mind can conceive, man can achieve. Try science of mind. At Lincoln Center with Dr. Raymond Charles Barker. She thought, well, mind can conceive, man can achieve. And this is back in the day when, you know, man was a generic term for all of us. And but she looked at, she thought about that. She went home and talked to her mother, my grandmother, about it. And, well, let's go. Also, there was a hook in it for them, which was Lincoln Center was new. So let's go down to Lincoln Center, and yeah, they didn't have opera tickets or anything. Let's go down there and see Alice Tully Hall, and let's sit through this and see what happens. And they walked in there, and their lives changed forever. And that was how my family got introduced into this. As I say, I was 8 or 9 years old. And they were all enthused about it. And so this was around, because we all lived together, big place, and this was all around the conversation as I was coming up. But as a kid, you reject out of hand typically whatever your people are into. They could have seen the face of God, you know, and it's like, nah, that's bogus, you know. I'll find that on my own. So it took me a few years. It took me, well, about 11 years to pay attention to what was going on, and it was in a different venue with different teacher and so on. And all of a sudden, it was like how I felt and maybe you felt similarly since you're sitting here today or watching. How I felt was this stuff, this teaching, put the words to the music. That I had felt something inside myself that I couldn't articulate. It was a sense, what the poets would call a sense of the sublime, you know? That there was some kind of presence around me that cared about me enough to not interfere in who I was and what I was learning, you know? And it just kind of, it was there, but it wasn't intrusive, and it wasn't corrective, and it wasn't at all judgmental. And it had a principle, it had a way of acting that was consistent and trustworthy, you know? And that was kind of what it was swimming around in my consciousness. And I walked into this place, and by now I'm in Houston, and I walked into this little place in an office park down in southwest Houston, and there's this man in a pea green leisure suit. It was those days. And he's giving a talk on prosperity. On prosperity. I'm 20 years old. I could not care less about prosperity. And how to be more, I don't know, wealthy or something. Money meant nothing to me in those days. But the principle that he was coming from, what all of this was harking back to, the basis for it, that made sense. And I was like, talk more about that. So shortly, I don't know how soon it was, he started a little class on Emerson, and that did it. I was in. I was in. And then you find, I'll tell you more about this as, in weeks to come. It's not all about me, but, well, yes it is actually. You find when you're a young person and you show up at one of these places, they put you to work. Because there's, tables to be moved, and could you pick that up and do? And so all of a sudden I was like needed. Also, I wrote in those days, and they had a little newsletter, and they said, will you do the newsletter? And this is back in the day, long before desktop publishing, when you did everything with paste up, you cut out little pieces of stuff and glued them on and took it to the printer. And so I was there a lot. I was going to school at night. And, well, one thing led to another. I took class. They had lots of classes, and that's why this place has had lots of classes. That's why classes are really the essence of what we do at Creative Life. Sunday's this is the cherry on top kind of thing. So we get together, we have a little talk, here's some music, but you really want to get this. You get into classes, not just to hear from the teacher, not just to read from the textbook, but be with the other students, to be in that collective consciousness. So after Emerson and stuff, Dr. Ben Winter, my teacher, said, well, we're going to have Science Mind 1 this fall. Back in the day, you had Science Mind 1 and 2 and Practitioner 1 and 2. There were two religious science organizations at the time. This down here was what was called United Church of Religious Science, and the one in New York was part of Religious Science International. They taught exactly the same thing, but in different ways, using different models. So that fall, I took the first Science of Mind class, and I began to have this idea that I would really like to do something with this, and I don't know what. And it took a few years, 6 years after that, I got my practitioner license, and then I started thinking about starting a study group, and well, here we are, down the years. Why I bring all of this stuff up, so let's go back to my aunt on the M104 bus, who sees the sign that says, what mind can conceive? What mind conceived that? What mind conceived the idea of a teaching that says you're liberated from all the suffering that you've experienced as a result of believing that God judges you harshly in some way. You're liberated from the belief that religion is only for a few special mystical people who've been to the mountaintop and had that experience, and they come back and they can't talk about it, and they're, it's all very arcane. No, there's something practical that you can use. That it is a psychology. It's a spiritual psychology of understanding yourself better and asking yourself, what am I really feeling and what's really going on here? And at a certain point, the religious science movement looked around and noticed that accompanying it on the planet was the 12-step model of recovery from addiction, and noticed, wow, we have a lot in common. It's an empirical process that you walk through, and a process of spiritual psychology, process of spiritual understanding. At some point in time, religious science looked around, discovered humanistic psychology, Jungian psychology, so on, said, hey, this is all saying the same thing. They're talking about archetypes and animan, animus, but it's all the same language. And we started picking up all of these different things and realizing, hey, we all fit, but we don't have to not be who we are. We don't have to give up who we are and go join some other group, you know. Each of us is saying this in our own way, putting this across in our own way. Now, typically at this point in these January series, I'll say that this is a place, and mean it, that this is a place that teaches us how to believe, not what to believe. It is vital that you grasp the difference. What you believe is your business alone. No one has the right to tell you what to believe. No one. If Jesus Christ came back down to earth and came to you and said, Lisa, I think you could believe something different, she has the right to say to him, Jesus, I love you, man, and all due respect, but I'm Lisa Ryan, and the same God made me. The same God made me has made you. And you know what? I'm its child too. And so I'm figuring out my life in my own way. And you know what? The Jesus Christ that I believe in would not come down from heaven and go buttonhole Lisa and tell her to change her beliefs and go be a Christian or something like that. That's not who he was. That's how he's been vended. That's how he's been pushed forward. But that's a whole different racket, you know? So nobody has the right to tell you what to believe. But how to believe is something everybody could use some help with. How do I believe and not look stupid? How do I believe and manifest something according to my own beliefs that's consistent? How do I believe in, say, a safe and loving and trusting universe when it doesn't look like that? Well, you go to the place in consciousness where nothing has ever been wrong. You go to the place of wholeness and perfection and glory and all the rest of it that's internal, and you bring that forward. You bring that forward. You start talking about that in your inner dialogue. You start acting like that in your outer actions. You start walking through the world like that, and you develop, and this is where your eyes are going to cross because you're going to hear this out of me until, you know, regular spiritual practice. This is not a one-shot deal. Okay? A lot of us coming up, we heard stories like, oh, well, Saul of Tarsus, you know, on the road to Damascus, who got hit between the eyes and everything. He was blind for 3 days and stuff. And then everything changed. And we say, well, I'm up for that. I can give you 3 days. I can take 3 days off from work to sit home as if I have a bad headache, having seen the face of the divine, you know, and then have everything be changed and not need to do anything else about it, but just kind of bask in that glow. And I'll tell you, that's not how it works at all. That is not how it works at all. Every single day for the rest of your life, you visit spirit deliberately. You stop what you're doing and you think about God. They asked the wonderful teacher who was of the Divine Science School, and you'll hear more little New Thought history going through this, and we have a class starting too. Big surprise there, a week from Monday on New Thought history. Well, one of the teachers in the 20th century who was a bridge person between New Thought per se, he was a Divine Science teacher, and the nascent 12-step community was a man named Emmett Fox. And Bill Wilson, the co-founder of Alcoholics Anonymous, glommed on to Fox's work, and there's a whole interesting rabbit hole you can go down there about all that. Fox he wrote copiously, but he put out a little booklet, maybe 8-10 pages, called The Golden Key. The Golden Key. It's meant to be carried around in your pocket. And the golden key is simply this. Whatever your problem is, think about God. Whatever's going on with you, think about God. If the roof caves in, think about God. If it's a beautiful day, think about God. If it's a rain, and on and on and on. Whatever it is, think about God. Then he defines a God that you might actually want to think about. The kind of God you might actually want to think about. Still yours to accept or reject. Still yours to decide how you want to believe about it. But the God that he describes is benign, loving, kindly, and everywhere present all at once. Think about that. Think about God as order. Think about God as purpose and meaning and intention. And if you don't like the word God, and there are plenty of people who don't, and I hear from them, here and elsewhere, but I hear from them, who's people who say, don't call it God. All right, we'll call it something else. But it's God. It is the divine. It is the divine nature. It is the ultimate ground of all being. It is the I am that I am. Whatever you want to call it, there is something that is all there is. And everything that appears to be, as a function of it, as a subset of it, reflects its nature in everything that it does. So, Ernest Holmes, the founder of this teaching, I know I've given you a lot of names today, but Ernest Holmes is the guy who put together the Science of Mind teaching as we have it. He didn't invent it because it's been around forever, but he articulated it in a certain way, wrote about it, and taught it. Because when he was a kid, he heard something that was words to the music. And he read Henry Drummond, and he read Emerson, and he read Bible, and he said, and then he started, as he got a little older, he started researching other world faith systems, and he realized there's like a golden thread that runs through all of these, of the presence of the divine. So he put out this idea for us, and a little bit, there was a touch of Christian Science in there too, because he had some of that in his family. And, well, he came up with this idea. He said, so how does this work, this thing? Called the thing itself. How does this presence work? And this is what we're going to talk about in the weeks to come. But the short version of it for this morning is there is one mind. There is one mind with a capital M. And it has two, as he put it, classifications to it. Two aspects to it. Not two minds, but, well, define it your own way. It looks like this. There's universal mind and particular mind. There's conscious mind and subjective mind. The subjective mind is the universal mind, and the conscious mind is the particular mind. Does that make sense? Not yet. Okay, it will. So, you and I think, so what Anita saw on the bus wall, okay, what mind can conceive. The mind that does the conceiving is the conscious aspect of mind, also known as the intellect. So you sit there and you think of things and you have conceptions of them, and they go into memory, which is where they begin to verge on the subconscious or subjective form of mind. So you have a concept of things. That's what to conceive means, is you create a concept in mind. And that becomes your guiding light, that concept as it relates to that situation, as it relates to that particular process. You have a concept. Well, over time, like before you're out of the crib, you've accumulated a lot of these concepts. And by the time you're this old or that old or the age you are now, you've got zillions of these concepts. You've got a story going. Holmes calls these your mental equivalents. You have a whole set of concepts. And so somebody throws out, like word association, they throw out something to you, and you immediately have a concept of what they mean. You also have an emotional reaction to much of this. Somebody says, shall we go get Italian food? And, well, you know what Italian food is. You've had it before. You know what qualifies as Italian food. It's not sushi and it's not tacos, right? Okay, you know what it is. Then, how do you feel about it? You like Italian food? A lot of people do. Probably some people don't. Maybe you like Italian food, but the last time you had some, you got sick. And so they're saying, or you're just not hungry today. You're just like full to the brim. And so all of this comes into play. Here's the thing, though. A lot of people are unconscious of that whole process. And they believe, for the sake of simplicity, that there's one true story about Italian food. It is this, that everything is just so, failing to take into account that everything is responsive to belief. And now you don't have to eat Italian food. Your life is not going to be significantly different if you don't. But if you want to, and you don't know why you can't, then ask yourself, what's the story that I have about this? Not being silly about the Italian food. I was trying to think of something inoffensive and, yet that we've all experienced. But ask yourself, what is my reaction? Why do I freak out every time I see a Christmas tree? What is it? This thing, I tell you, this thing is loaded with emotional significance for everybody, starting with the people who put it up. And all of us sit. Every Christmas, if you've ever experienced Christmas in your life, if you grew up in a Christian household that did Christmas, or you certainly grew up in a culture that did Christmas, you've seen one of these things, and you've had your heart broken, and you've had wonderful times, and you've sang beautiful songs, and you've forgotten your part in the Christmas pageant, and all of this, and people have died and left the planet suddenly, and you've been shocked and horrified, and new friends have been made, and you've been delighted, and all of that is thrown together into this experience called a holiday that's represented by something like that. And so you and I walk through the world and see this and get moved around by it, and we don't know why. So we tell ourselves, as a shortcut, we tell ourselves that the truth of Christmas is, I hate Christmas. And what we're saying is, if we're saying we hate Christmas, what we're saying is, I hate how I feel. I hate the accumulation of feelings that I have within myself that I am not willing to explore because I might not come back. And this is called emotional wounding, spiritual wounding. And we live in a culture of people who are going through this. We ourselves are going through this. What the science mind says, there's a way out of that. But guess what? The way out is through. The way out is through. The way out is to sit with you. Say, you're just a Christmas tree. Okay? And I'm here now. And this is a new day, and I can make up a new story about how I want to feel, about how I want my life to work, and where the science mind comes in and takes it from being simple spiritual psychology to a world-changing situation, is that it says if you will do that, your experience will change to match. That's the kicker. But you do it proactively. You do it first, before you have any evidence. You come to believe, and this is tough, and this may be, I got into a big conversation, one of those endless loop conversations the other day with somebody about why isn't New Thought, all over the planet and stuff like this, and there are all kinds of reasons, and the one that I buy, I don't like to dwell on it because, I think we're winning. I think we're doing a lot of good in the world. But this can be hard work. This can be hard work, what we do here. To look at your inventory of stuff within yourself and realize I gotta work through that. I gotta push through that to come out the other side of this. I gotta be willing to forgive. I gotta be willing to let go. If I want to live in a world of amazing people who love me and trust me and want to run toward me and be my friend, I have to be that person before I have any evidence that this is working. I have to believe in belief first. And with it, like unto it, believe in myself. Believe in myself. Just as I am. Not who I'm going to be when I'm all fixed, but just as exactly as I am right now. And if I will do that, the world will start to meet me on those terms. We were talking a while back about confidence. About having confidence. The key to having confidence, confident people will tell us, is to just act like you have confidence. It's just walk into a room and look like you belong there. You know, strike up a conversation with a stranger, and everybody, whoa, that person has a lot of confidence. And when people see you and they think you have confidence, they start to have confidence in your confidence. And they'll kind of want to stand by you, and they'll say, so what do you think I ought to do about this? And then you can cross a line there and, you know, like overstep and start giving advice and all. But people like confident people. So you can keep your mouth shut and still be confident, you see. You see how it's made up? What if you were a person who knew absolutely the divine nature within themselves? What would that person who is you look like? How would that person get up and walk across the room? How would that person eat Italian food? How would that person put up a Christmas tree? How would that person be anything at all? And you start to go into that. You start to go into that. And the world begins to respond to you correspondingly. The world begins to respond to you correspondingly. That's the secret of all of this. The thing itself, the divine nature is your nature. The I am that you seek, everything that you seek. I took a self-help program. I did a lot of this back in the day in one of these 2 weekend things in a hotel ballroom. And one of the lines that came out of that lasted with me was, the light that you seek is in the lantern that you carry. Isn't that great? What was it? Diogenes, I think, went in search of an honest man with the lantern, you know. he's still out there somewhere in the woods. The light that you seek is in the lantern that you carry. Another line that came out of that same process just occurred to me now. It said, we say to the fireplace, give me some fire. And the fireplace says, give me some wood. Right? We do the work, we get the result. You want to know God? Talk to it. Talk to it like you were entitled to. Talk to it like it was right there. Talk to it like maybe you did when you were a little kid. Not every little kid did this, but some did, where they told you to say your prayers and God bless mommy and God bless daddy and talk to God and keep me safe and do this and that and help me with my homework and you know. And when you're a little kid, you buy it. There's something out there, you know, that's picking up on this, and it's going to deliver. It's going to deliver. You have that kind of trust till we talk ourselves out of it. We say, well, you know, I have a past. I have a history. I haven't been the greatest person all along there. So that ship sailed for me. You know, the whole God thing, the whole spirituality thing. That's for other, you know, the pure and holy people. Well, where are they? That's who Diogenes is out looking for still in the woods. Okay? Is the person who never did any wrong thing. But no, there's a presence and a principle. And this will be the topic next week. The presence and the principle. We'll leave it there for today. The presence is spirit, God, divine nature, whatever you want to call it. It is everywhere present, all at once, in and through everything. And it has a principle by which it works. A principle without which it could not work. It has a principle that says that it's done to you as you believe. It's done to you as you believe. It's not done to you as a practitioner believes. It's not done to you as Ernest Holmes believed, or Jesus the Christ, or anybody else. Nobody else can make your outcomes for you. Nobody else can get between you and your choices. It's done to you as you believe, so how are you believing? Do you like your beliefs? And if not, they're right there, right at hand to be worked on. What if we lived in a world that was in love with itself? It's not too late for that. We're a young species, man, and I was just reading in the paper yesterday, they found tools in near the Old Divide Gorge in Kenya, found tools 3 million years old. 3 million years old. Pre-human ancestors. It wasn't even the human species. It was ancestors of the human species. Tools. So what do they use the tools for? They paired their vegetables with these flint-looking things, right? Took the rind off their... We do that today over the kitchen sink. See? No ship has sailed. We're still young. We're still vibrant. We're still right there. We're still open. And this presence that knows only the now takes us as it finds us. It says, so, You start your spiritual work, you go in, it's like a whole new day. See what happens. People waiting to be your friend, people waiting to come toward you, your dreams waiting to come true, all there for the asking, all there for the claiming. So we're going to claim it now in a process called spiritual mind treatment. I'm going to do this now, and Reverend Lisa will do it. Another one at the end. Just to know together there is one life, one power, one presence, pure spirit, everywhere, radiant, everywhere, manifesting. It's made this beautiful day for us. Say, what a beautiful day. Well, it's raining and it's windy and it's going to get cold. And here on the Gulf Coast, we have a strange relationship with that. This is off the point, but I got to say it. You know, it can be, if you're from out of town, I got to interrupt the treatment with this because this is too good to let go. Okay, we have a visiting friend in the room from Canada today. I was thinking about this. You know, here on the Gulf Coast, if it's 115 degrees, we look at each other and we say, it's kind of warm today, isn't it? Oh, yeah, it's kind of warm. It gets to 30 here and we're like, oh, my God. Oh, my God. Frozen. So, all right. So on this beautiful day where the weather's changing and changes in the air, all that change swirls around the changeless, the axis mundi, the world tree, the device that stands at the center of the clearing around which all civilization unfolds. That central post is the divine, and it is everywhere located. We live in its light. We make our choices and we see them manifest. I affirm and know for each one of us now, today, it's easy for us to do this. It's easy for us to let go of anything, clutching anything that has impeded us along the way. Any self-definition that's less than whole and perfect and complete. Any definition of others, any mistrust of the world and the beings in it, it's easy for us to set that gently aside and saying, these are the things that used to be. They shall be rolled up like a scroll and placed away. And in their knowing, in their space, there is a clear and confident knowing that all I am is that I am. That I am, that I am. The self-recognition of the divine, having an experience of itself in this world at this time by means of me. I relax into that as my reality, and nothing is left out, nothing is wanting. There is only spirit doing that which is to be done, doing it through me with my full, heartfelt cooperation for this knowing and its manifestation in form everywhere I turn. I am so deeply grateful. I release this word now into the infinite, calling it done, and so it is.
So now please say with me, divine love through me blesses and multiplies all the good I am and have, all the good I give and receive. I am prosperous now, and so it is.
Sometimes I feel sorry for the people on YouTube because they don't get the music. Because YouTube has rules, and so we have to take it out. So if you're watching this on YouTube, go look up the John Denver song, It Amazes Me. Because, go look up anything by John Denver. I'm going to tell on myself really quickly. When I was very small, I was in love with John Denver. Like, to the point, I probably at least once told my parents I was going to marry John Denver. So, that's how in love with John Denver I was. When I was 4 to 6 to 8. And then, of course, I got too cool for John Denver. But to this day, I still, love John Denver. So anytime you do a John Denver song, I'm there for it. John Denver. All right. He was. Yeah, we did John Denver, and there was no way to do Poison. So Nancy did a dramatic reading of Ride the Wind from Poison, because, I am who I am. And since it's back to the basics, I saw a meme, and I haven't shared it on the Facebook page, but I will. Now, it's called the 7 Rules for Life. If we're going to go back to the basics. Now, I'm not going to call them rules. I don't believe in rules. I am going to call them guidelines. There's a little pirate in my background. Anybody got that reference? First one, make peace with your past so it won't disturb your present. What other people think of you is none of your business. Now, this says time heals almost everything. Time doesn't heal it. You heal it. It just takes time. So give it time. No one is in charge of your happiness except you. Don't compare your life to others and don't judge them. You have no idea what their journey is all about, just like they don't have any idea about yours. Stop thinking too much. It's all right to not know all the answers. Smile. You don't own all the problems in the world. All right? Since we're back to the basics, I thought you could use a little skeleton crew to get you going. Now, I know Jesse promised you a closing from me, but I'm not going to do it today. And the reason I'm not going to do it today is because the practitioner in the room is Jim, and he would like to do the closing. And I gratefully cede the closing to him.
So I bring my mind to that which is greater than I, that which is beyond my conception of reality, my ego. And that brings me to the now, where it exists in eternity. The now, which is the font of love and confidence and wisdom and love itself. That the font of creation, the thing from which we all come from and to which we will all return. I am one with this. It is within me. I am within it. And I reach for that awareness, for that consciousness, for that knowingness, to speak words for everyone gathered here that we are one, that we have within us the wisdom and the knowingness and the sense of right for ourselves that we can pursue, that we are whole and that we are holy. And with that comes bliss and happiness when we reach for it. These words I am so grateful for. I cast them with gratitude on the law of creation so that they may live in our hearts and be with us through life. And so it is.
Say with me now, something wonderful is happening through me.
Something wonderful is happening through me.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in everything I am.
I feel it in everything I am.
I choose it. I trust it.
trust
I use it. And I love it.
And
And so it is.
So it is.